coming to get you, Barbara.
Here's some money. Go see a Star War.
But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
Welcome back to Long Walk Talks. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am joined today, as always, by my two co-hosts, Stan Wilson Lee.
Guten Tag.
And Chris Wilson Barnes.
Boy, if you want to feel like time is inverting, just watch a Christopher Nolan movie.
And as Chris just alluded to, today we are wrapping up our Christopher Nolan filmography discussion with the 2020 film Tenet. What a weird year this has been, right, guys? Going from the Kevin Smith and the View Askew universe to Christopher Nolan.
And the View Askew universe. A more skewed universe.
Yeah, just an askewed universe.
It's been weird taking on two directors of exactly the same importance and level.
I mean, depending on who you ask, yeah, they are just on very different ends of the spectrum. Chris,
which spectrum, Dave?
Of the filmmaking spectrum. Stan, how have you felt about this journey that we've gone on this year from Kevin Smith to Christopher Nolan?
You know, it's like, you know how much I adored Kevin Smith, and I pretty much adore Christopher Nolan. Who are we talking about? Christopher Nolan as much.
He adores him so much he almost remembered his name the first time.
No, it's like, you know, I think the Batman trilogy is very important cinema, especially the Dark Knight. And I think it was a really good, like you said, it was two different points of the spectrum, and I think it was the difference between Kevin Smith's, and I'm doing this in quotes, amateurism and Christopher Nolan's professionalism. Mm-hmm. You know, because even though we might have things to say about Christopher Nolan and the way he makes films, he definitely is very professional about his filmmaking.
It's chaos versus controlled chaos.
Exactly.
Chris, what are your thoughts before we dive into the discussion of Tenet?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed their movies. Christopher Nolan's, I kind of had to be dragged kicking and screaming into watching. Christopher Nolan is really good at adapting graphic novels he's made up.
Yeah, wow. I'd say that sounds right. I feel like we should start with a recap of the plot, but I really have no idea how to do that. Because, I mean, even the main character doesn't have a name. He's just referred to as the protagonist. But it's John David Washington, right?
The actor, yes.
Yes. Okay, yeah, John David Washington.
Denzel's boy.
Yep. John David Washington is this shadowy government agent who is introduced to this program called Tenet, which is all about saving the future from time travel shenanigans.
He gets drafted into the Time War.
Basically.
And we're dropped in at the same time he's dropped in.
So yes. No one knows what's going on.
The idea that we have, like Interstellar, we have to do a little work and homework to get where we're supposed to be at the beginning of the movie and probably for the next 35 minutes. So.
All right, well, with that said, how difficult it is to accurately sum up this movie, let me ask you guys, what percentage of the film would you say that you understood perfectly? Stan.
In what way?
I mean,
because there's several levels of, you know, there's physics, there's metaphysics, there's, you know, that are you talking about where we're going as a plot and stuff?
As a whole, I mean, if we look back at the Batman films, those are very straightforward. There's nothing really, I feel like, to misinterpret or for you to stop afterwards and go, but wait a minute, what was happening here?
Sure. Fortunately, I had seen it previously and not that long ago, so I was a little bit, but I can tell you the first time I seen this movie, it took a long bit of time to get my footing and like he says a lot, we have to catch up or you catch up, you know, and it's like the idea of catching up to where he's at in his time or in inverted time, or how do we get back?
Right.
But the same thing happens with Interstellar. Same thing happens in Memento. If you think about it, you're dropped into the moment, and that, if anything, that's
and same thing with Inception.
Same thing with Inception, especially Inception is like, and so it's like I would say, Tenet might be a good sequel or continuation of Inception, but using time infraction as opposed to dropping yourself into your own depths of your brain. It took me it still took me a little bit. I had to readjust and say, oh, okay. And then I had to remember that so-and-so jumped off the boat and it was so-and-so that comes later, It's like, so it's like, it took a bit. Yeah, it took good 10 minutes.
So that did not answer the question at all. What percentage, if you had to give it, I understood 75% of this movie.
Okay, the first time I saw it, I would say I got to probably a good 60. So I'm saying I got to at least 85.
Okay.
But because of that's, I know this kind of shit a little bit, and it's
Time travel?
Yeah.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Chris, what about you? What percentage would you say?
I don't know. I don't think I really had a difficult time following things. I mean, there could have been subtle things that I missed, Nolan is pretty good at being straightforward with what he wants you to understand about a movie. Mm-hmm. So I would put myself in about the 85% range, just because I'm not going to say, I 100% nailed this.
Yeah. Watching it last night was the third time for me. So I'd say the first time. Now let me clarify. I understand the plot. I understand what happens. Yeah. All of the it's me overthinking a lot of the time travel aspects of it.
Yeah, that's why I asked, in what respect. So.
I'd say the first time I saw this, Kitty and I actually got to see it in the theater in 2020, and we were the only ones in the movie theater, which was amazing. Yeah. I'd say I got, aside from the plot, maybe 50% of what was going on. The second time, about 75%. Last night, I'd say I'm about 95% there. And I just do not think I'm ever going to completely get that other 5%. And that's okay. But I'll bring it up later. There's a point in the movie where I just stopped taking notes because I was hyper-focused on making sure that I was paying attention and connecting the dots. Which brings us to the next observation / discussion topic. Don't try to understand it. A direct quote from, I credited her as the doctor. I don't actually know what this woman's job was, but one of the first people that the protagonist goes to see is this woman who explains the tenets of time inversion to him, and she says to him, don't try to understand it. And
did she say her job was just that piece of wall with the bullets?
Yeah,
that's all she does.
Yeah, all she does is work with time inverted objects, which, imagine going home at night and your husband being like, hey honey, how was work? I don't fucking know. It could have been good. It could have been bad. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking.
The confidence of Christopher Nolan to feel, he did well. I think he succeeded, but the confidence to put a line like that in your movie.
Right.
To be like, don't think about it.
It might have been a response to studio executives being I don't understand it. Okay, well, don't try to understand it. Just fucking go with it.
I was thinking thematically is that she had tried to understand it and it was killing her. That's why, she had the collection, the drawers of stuff.
It was very much the resigned look, don't try to understand
exactly.
it.
So it's like I had to figure out, and it took me a long time because she gave him the out. She could teach him, you're catching it.
Yes.
You're not throwing it. So she had to learn that.
It was the sound of someone who's like, look, I have just explained it to you. I know exactly how it works. It still feels like fucking magic. So just go with it.
Well, and that whole scene, I think, is quite literally just a metaphor for the rest of the movie.
Sure.
And how you just kind of have to commit to this concept, because he tries to do what she just did, which is hold out his hand and have the bullet come to it, and it won't. And she's like, you have to have just dropped it. So he has to commit to the motion of him dropping a bullet before it will actually come into his hand. And that whole, you just have to commit to this concept for it to work. It's just a big metaphor for the movie.
It's the idea of how the time travel is going to work, because you have to go through the process of dropping it first before the time will invert and give you the bullet back.
Yeah.
It's basically part of the whole first 50 minutes of, here's what Christopher Nolan wants you to understand so you can show you the movie he wants you to see.
And I think the whole thing about you're not shooting the bullet, you're catching it,
Right.
You're not dropping it, it's coming back to you. That is what I have spent like the last year and a half since I first saw this trying to wrap my head around. And I think that's where the last 2 times I've watched it, that's where I'm focusing so hard on the movie to understand the concept. I get the time travel.
Well,
I get moving backwards, like the inversion of the entropy.
I think the problem is the time, because of how movies have thought of time travel ever since we committed it to film. This isn't really time travel. It needs another term.
Inversion, I guess. Time inversion.
I guess so, because what they're describing as time travel is literally, like you said, the inversion of entropy. So you are just basically re-experiencing the same thing you did, but backwards.
Yeah. Yeah, it hurts my brain to think about too hard, and I think that's the idea. And quite literally, like she said, if I had just listened to her and that line, "Don't try to understand it," maybe my head wouldn't hurt when I watched this movie.
She's also literally telling you, "I am someone who is trained to try and understand and work with this. I don't know. You're gonna fuck yourself over even harder."
And I think Nolan was telling himself that too, because remember in the what's the magic movie, The Prestige?
Yeah.
Where I think Nolan was trying to understand his stuff a lot, and finally he gets to tell himself. And Interstellar, he was trying to understand and explain and be
Space
linear.
travel, the fourth dimension.
It's also the downfall of any sort of sci-fi movie, whether it's hard sci-fi or like high sci-fi, or like the sci-fi where it's just go with it all the time. It's like when you try to sit down too hard and just explain everything out, you're also fucking yourself over.
Yeah, because he just blew away the grandfather paradox. You know, he just like blah blah blah, grandfather paradox, blah, go on.
Yeah, they explicitly name drop and explain the grandfather paradox, the grandfather paradox, but then in the same movie go on to defy it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Basically, they're saying it's like, yeah, that's the simple idea behind time travel, but ours is different, so it may not work that way.
Because if you consider the fact that they explain in the movie, by the way, audience, if you're listening to this and it hasn't already become clear, spoiler alert. If you consider the fact that the beginning of the film, the Kiev Opera House.
Yeah.
God, I hate the traffic around here. The Kiev Opera House heist and extraction takes place at the exact same time as the final battle.
Yes.
Yep.
Then that means Neil died before the protagonist actually met him.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where Neil dies, is saving the protagonist's life and opening the lock on that door.
Yep.
I wish listeners, you could see the look on Stan's face as he just put that math together. Those events, they're
because
concurrent.
I never saw their face, so I didn't know Neil was part of that.
You don't see Neil's face.
They drop heavy hints.
It's the thing that he's got on his backpack. The protagonist first sees...
There's a red cord.
Yeah, the red cord on his backpack when he is saved at the opera house.
You're right.
So
Yes.
you also have to consider that as the extraction is happening at the opera house at the beginning of the movie, the protagonist and Neil are both there. But at the exact same time in Ukraine, or at the...
Kiev. Well, Kiev is the opera house. Stausk.
Stausk, yes.
It's a Russian place.
So the protagonist and Neil are also at...
And you see the backpack with the
string on it. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about this, Nolan's ambiguous but not subtle about that, because he does ask Neil at some point, and he goes, "Look, it doesn't matter."
Mm-hmm.
It was just basically, "Yeah, I was there."
Yeah. Yeah. I wish we could broadcast this recording so that the audience could have seen the look on your face. It was priceless.
But there is that great moment at the end of the movie, which is one of my favorite moments, when Neil finally explains and pretty much wraps up or brings the protagonist into the loop.
Or he's like, yeah, you enlisted me.
You enlisted me. We have a lot. We're going to go through a lot. We get up to a lot.
Or I should say, you enlisted me a lot sooner than you think.
You enlisted me a lot sooner than you think. So the whole idea that he's going to be going through this for a long, long time, for eternity. You know,
it's also a great line when he says, "This is the end of a beautiful friendship."
Yes, and for me, it's just beginning.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's take a second, and by a second I mean however long this takes. Our next discussion topic is, my God, John David Washington is his father's son. This movie could have been made 20 years ago starring Denzel Washington and been the exact same film.
Whenever there's a back shot, and when he's walking away, that's his dad's walk.
Well, not just like physicality, the voice. They have the exact same cadence. They have the exact same line deliveries. It is fucking eerie how similar they are. And
I think Nolan was okay with it, because I don't know if I noticed that as much in the Black Klansman. I knew it was Denzel's son, but I didn't necessarily notice a bunch of Denzel-isms happening in him. But in this one, there's a ton.
You think Nolan was just like, okay, so we couldn't get Denzel, so I need you to perform exactly like your father.
No, I think he just said, don't be self-conscious about it. You're Denzel Washington's son. You're going to have mannerisms of your dad, so don't worry about it. Just do the part.
I think it's a missed opportunity that we don't see the protagonist in the future played by Denzel Washington.
That'd be a hell of a thing.
Maybe Neil knows him.
I think the main difference, Denzel has more of a casualness to him that I think his son doesn't quite have yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he was also playing a more intense role.
Yeah.
But from what I was watching, it was like, there's a bit of a casualness about Denzel.
Yeah.
Until he gets really intense.
Yeah, that's true. Thinking about like Man on Fire Denzel versus Tenet, John David.
John David.
Yeah.
Just say John. Yeah.
I'm getting
JD. There we go.
Yeah.
There is a moment when he's with I forgot her name, Kat, in the restaurant, and all the guys come in. And he totally goes into Denzel at that point. You know, he has those one-liners. You know, it's like, what are you gonna do? You know, and it's like, and then he does his fight, and they're like waiting for the bad guys to come out in the car, and then he just does his strut down the stairs and out and buttons the jacket like his dad would.
Yep.
It's very much a James Bond kind of
moment. It really is.
And I had the thought, I didn't write this down in my notes, but this feels like James Bond meets Inception. This whole movie.
I could see that.
Absolutely.
I also didn't write this down, but I want to take a second to talk about it. I love the use of good improvised weapons in action movie fight scenes. And I think the most painful one I've seen in recent memory is him using a fucking cheese grater.
I was about to say, the cheese grater,
fight.
punching the guy in the face with a cheese grater.
And then holding it against the side of his face and raking it down his cheek. Yeah, you don't see enough cheese graters in hand-to-hand fistfights.
He's in a kitchen.
And the best part of it is that he was doing it as he's walking, so it was almost like just a natural, nonchalant walk as he's punching the guy with the grater. So it's like there was none of this, added extra, I got to sell it that I'm in a fight. He was just like walking through a kitchen. I have a cheese grater and I'm going to use it to punch a guy. And it was just a normal walk through the kitchen.
Yeah, and then he just slings a whole bunch of plates. Like, I feel bad for the poor employees of that restaurant, like walking in, like, what the fuck happened?
I bet they're not too surprised. I'm betting that's a front place.
Yeah. Still, though, we need a movie about those guys, the poor kitchen workers.
It would have to be a comedy where you're working at the front for where international spy stuff happens.
And it would star Adrian Brody.
No.
And get really sad and depressing. All right, let's move on. And we're just kind of speeding through topics, but I get the feeling that's going to slow down.
I can toss in with...
We can invert.
That's what it is, to make this episode a full hour, because we're only at like the 20-minute mark. Once we get done, I'm just going to play the whole episode backwards.
which will be forward for some folks.
Well, it would have been too much, but when I was thinking about,
be careful. The inverted podcast will make people's ears bleed.
Yeah, well, I thought about
Or enter them and blow their insides up.
last night when I was conceptualizing this episode and these topics. I really thought about not telling you guys, but starting the episode off with being like, all right, well, if you want to follow Long Walk Productions online, Chris, where can people follow you online at?
Oh,
Stan,
good, we're
are
done.
you
I
on
can
social
go.
media? Yeah. And just proceed backwards.
Oh, I can toss in with what I was talking about with you on the way over. Is like, boy, Nolan sure loves a well coordinated heist, doesn't he?
Well, let me piggyback on that because that's what I wrote down for the next discussion topic. Yeah. Wow, Nolan really loves finding convoluted ways to get in and out of places.
It's true.
He did borrow the bungee jump from Dark Knight, though.
Well,
he said, okay, I don't want to have to make a new. Let's just use.
I'll
this
just bring
one.
up all the movies we've watched, especially Inception. And this one is just like there's a heist in there somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a heist in the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
There's two in this one, and it's like I'm pretty sure he had to be forced to drop one from Interstellar somehow.
Well, it's funny when you brought that up. I immediately started thinking like, wait, wasn't there? Was there a heist in Interstellar?
No, there's a distraction scene where they burn the crops.
There's a distraction scene, but the idea that they have to go to this black hole, and and he ends up sending himself in, and he gets into.
They have to heist the secrets of the universe to save Earth.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's what it is. Like, I was trying to rationalize that in my head.
The Prestige, the whole stealing secrets and shit, and. Imposters.
Steal the magic of electricity.
Yes.
Yeah.
The whole Tesla shit.
Yeah, during the whole thing where Neil and the protagonist are trying to get into that high rise in Mumbai. It was Mumbai, right?
It wasn't India.
Yeah. It gave me major Dark Knight Skyhook vibes.
Yeah.
And I want to know, apparently the Skyhook was an actual CIA idea that was just deemed.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't know. It may have been used at least once, or it was just a concept, but it was a thing that they thought of actually using. Yeah.
And it was too impractical. But inverted bungee jumping. Who the fuck came up with that idea?
Someone who wasn't going to do it.
Well, yeah. If I ever find myself in a situation where I have to commit some kind of elaborate, convoluted heist, I want Christopher and/or Jonathan Nolan on my team.
Yeah, just have them there as a consultant for. If this were in a movie,
or Michael Mann.
If this were in a movie, what would you guys do? And just take all their notes.
Well, Michael Mann. I mean, as much as I love Heat, their plots really did. In the movie Heat, just involve going in with guns.
Yeah. You didn't need a plane.
No, they don't need planes. They don't need, bungee cords. But I do love an elaborate heist.
That also reminds me, the second one shouldn't have worked. I mean, it did, but it shouldn't have.
The second heist?
The second heist, when they're closing in on the truck with their vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
It was like by vehicle 2, the people running security should have been like, hey, something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But did they take out...
Well, they did. Well, eventually when they when they had all 4 vehicles close in, then they hit the brakes in a way that disables the people running.
Well, and the interior, you see the interior of one of those trucks, and they've got a bunch of signal scrambling equipment.
Right.
But that was after they'd already been boxed in.
Yeah.
The drivers of the truck with the piece of the algorithm on it were very chill about being boxed in.
But they were also front and behind. They had an escort, and it's once they saw vehicle 1 and 2, by vehicle 2, I'd be like, hey guys, there's vehicles starting to surround us.
Mm-hmm. It was a great fucking plan, though.
No, I mean it looked beautiful and it went well, but it's just I went with it because it's cool. But I was just in the back of my head, this wouldn't work.
I think that might have been a reason why he picked those specific.
Yeah.
Automobiles is because it
Maybe.
would be it's like if you have a fire truck coming off the
I don't know,
ramp,
but just
you can buy that.
I'd be nervous as someone on that convoy as soon as I saw the empty flatbed pull up. It's hey, that's roughly the size of our truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you tell a fire truck, a school bus, an ambulance, and whatever else they had to fuck off? Listen, I know that you might be on the way to somewhere important, but we're hauling a piece of time traveling equipment here. Can you not?
And that might be the reason why they were so chill, is because they've probably been trained. If something happens, don't freak out. Just let it go through. And
I mean, for all
hopefully
they knew,
you
it
won't
was
be
plutonium.
killed.
So
you know that.
Yeah.
If terrorists do want your plutonium, they're going to get it. You can't really do anything. You're just a driver, so don't. And your escorts are these folks. But yeah, you can't. If a fire truck happens to come in, you're going to pull over for the fire truck. You know. So.
I mean, I get it, but still.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful, though.
No, it was well. I mean, like I said, Nolan does a great, well-coordinated heist.
I agree. I love a good
great
convoluted
aerial
heist.
shots for.
I-
That
Oh,
he
yeah.
does to
Yeah.
lead into this stuff too. So
And I was telling Dave, Nolan does something great with those heists where it's like, for most movies, you see a heist like that, and then what drives the plot is something goes wrong. But
Yes.
but it's nice to see, because Nolan is like establishing that these people are professionals. They're great at what they do. So you'll always see the heist go off pretty much like 99% perfectly, and then some sort of happenstance fucks everything up. But it's like you see them be good at their job, and I think that's important for characters like those.
It is, and it's also an inversion of the unspoken plan guarantee cliche slash
Yeah.
trope. You don't really see them discuss any of these plans on screen. You just watch them unfold.
Because you get to see them do it.
Yeah. Now, had Nolan had the characters take the time to be like, all right, now once all 4 trucks are surrounding the truck with the plutonium, then you're going to get on top via the fire truck's ladder, and you're going to burn your way in, and you're going to get it and get out, and then we'll all split off. I feel like had they taken the time to explain that, then of course something would have gone wrong during that.
It is an American thing where it's just like you want to do a cool montage, but it's all tell, don't show.
Yeah.
And he is a really great at show, don't tell.
Yeah. All right. Well, our next discussion topic isn't a discussion topic. We don't have anymore because, as I put in the notes, I stopped coming up with the discussion topics and stopped taking notes around the time that the first Freeport heist scene happened.
Yeah.
Because it was at that point, having seen it 2 times prior, that I was like, okay, this is where things start getting insane. This is where the time travel really starts coming into play. This is where multiple versions of the same character start to exist. I have to fucking pay attention. And I completely forgot to take notes. I just
imagine you sitting there just like Clockwork Oranging yourself with your eyes open like this, just pulling them open.
Well, people always talk about like audiences like being too focused on their cell phones. You know, the boomer thing. Who was it? Ridley Scott?
Ridley Scott, yeah.
Yeah, fucking Ridley Scott.
He blamed-
Millennials and their cell phones.
He blamed
ruining
the non-success of his
The Last Duel.
The Last Duel on millennials and their cell phones.
Yeah.
As an elder millennial pushing 40, let me tell you, that's not true.
I didn't even, once we hit that scene, I didn't even pick up my phone to take notes or discussion topics or anything. I was fully enraptured.
because you have to be. I could hear myself. You have to be, because once it gets to that point and you start seeing the parallel stuff happening, and then you see the first fight in the hallways, and starting and having seen it before, you start piecing together. Okay, that's why Neil didn't say anything about it, blah 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 blah. But the idea that all this is now happening in inversion plus, and that's why Neil kept Homie away from
Yep.
Yeah, himself.
because if they would have met annihilation, it's like and that kept him from shooting them.
I just want to point out that thing you just mentioned. It was like they warn against touching your past self or your other self, and because you risk, what you just said, annihilation. That's time cop rules, homie.
It is time cop rules, but it's totally feasible because your molecules are not supposed to be in the same place at the same time.
Well, as Chris and I were discussing on the way over here, there are parts of this movie that just full on, spit in the face of physics, and we don't care because future magic,
there's
future
always
science.
something in between them.
And again, I think it goes back to the fact that this isn't what we think of traditionally as time travel.
Yes.
So it's operating on
It's parallel.
On what I would argue is a more realistic set of rules, honestly.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's why I don't have the same, the usual nitpicks that I do with this movie, the way that I do with a lot of time travel movies and the way they treat the rules of time travel.
There are consequences to it.
Yes.
Where when you do it, you are in real physical danger if you're not careful.
I'm assuming Jonathan wrote this, but I love Or did Christopher do it as well?
I don't know. Let me consult my phone.
Was it Michael?
But the idea that the convention of the cylinders, the turnstiles, I thought that was a great convention to
And
keep
I will say,
the idea that you don't see yourself.
it's important to pay attention, but he did, until the end where things got obfuscated during the final battle, it was pretty easy to follow. It's
Yeah.
like as long as you're just paying proper attention, just watching the screen, you can see who's going where and what and when, and you can see how it all connects. And then it's just like at the end, it's like basically gives you like, okay, here's the basics, now here's the test.
Yeah.
Because like when Kenneth Branagh's character, we haven't mentioned Kenneth Branagh is really fucking
the villain.
great. He's fucking great in this movie.
I did not realize that was Kenneth Branagh until the credits started rolling.
Same here, actually. I didn't.
All
catch
3
it.
times.
Well, no, the first time. When we saw this in the
This
theater.
movie does a number on him.
It does. I spent the whole movie going, fuck, who is this guy? I feel like I honestly, I spent the first time we watched it thinking that Sator was played by an obscure British actor that Christopher Nolan knew. And I was sure that I had seen in something somewhere before. And when Kenneth Branagh's name came up, I was like, fuck. That was
And Michael Caine's in it for a bit, and he's brilliant in his
Michael
scene.
Caine came in for one scene to be Michael Caine,
And-
and it was perfect.
And he
knocked it out of the park.
He Michael Cained the shit out
Fucking
of it.
shit. Yes,
he was
he
even
did.
called his
Sir
character-
Michael, yeah.
His character's name is Sir Michael.
It has a different last name, but it's Sir Michael. They call him Sir Michael.
Yeah.
And but anyway, the whole idea that it must be the inverted, but it could be the forward. But the one Kenneth Branagh that had to stay in the cylinder until his other self got into the cylinder, so he could come out and torture the protagonist. I love that convention.
The proving
so
window,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, the proving window.
And you
that
wonder-
scene goes a long way towards explaining to the audience.
Because you wonder why he pauses, and then later Ives, the commando, explains it. But you wonder why he pauses and then sees himself come out.
Yeah, and that to me, that scene goes a long way in explaining, I want to say the physics, but not really, of how the time inversion works. And how like the displacement of one person being in 2 places works. Watching the scene unfold in real time from the protagonist's point of view, and then seeing Sator go through the cylinder and come out on the other side, and watch the other half of that scene happen from his point of view, you are watching the same scene twice, but from their perspectives once.
Also,
It's fascinating.
that scene subtly sets up the final battle color coding.
Yes, it
Because
does.
they without saying anything, the forward time part is in red lighting. The inverted time parting is in blue lighting.
Yes.
And that's how it's set up for the people in forward time at the end and inverted time and the commando raid.
And the commando raid is really every time where I just flat out seen the movie 3 times now, all 3 times flat out given up on trying to keep up.
Oh yeah, no, it's just
like they introduced the concept of the classic military maneuver, the pincer maneuver, but with time inversion.
Yes.
So one half of it is happening in real time,
Yes.
the other half of it is happening inverted. Both armies are both groups are converging on the same point, and my head starts hurting, and I'm like, just fucking watch the movie, David.
You
Don't
have
try to
to
think
because, for instance, there's someone on the inverted commando squad who dies because they get stuck behind a wall that
Yes.
replaces itself.
Yes.
Yes.
And you hear a muffled explosion.
Yes, that in real time somebody just blew up.
Right.
And in inverted time just went back together.
And also the distraction for them to go get the thing to stop everything. What is the piece called again?
The algorithm.
The algorithm. The distraction they cause is in regular time and inverted time, they both RPG the same building, and it
Yes.
blows up in different ways.
Yes.
And then
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
Yes, exactly. That's me every
But
fucking time.
that's my question is that why Neil is the one that's in the permanent loop, is because he's the one that switched, so it's like he's actually in both inversion and has survived.
By the end of the movie, by the time we reach the commando scene at Stalsk, there are 3 versions of Neil present
Yes.
in that time period. There is the Neil, technically there are 4. There's the original Neil that was presumably just in Mumbai or England somewhere, living his life completely unaware, having never met the protagonist. There is the Neil that is saving the protagonist in Kiev at the Opera House. There's the Neil who is actively a part of the final battle. He starts out on the time inverted side, then goes through the machine to come out in the real time side to try to save the protagonist.
Yep.
And then there is the Neil who is there to pick the lock on the door and take the bullet for the protagonist. So 4 versions of him existing at the exact same moment in time, thanks to time inversion.
Yes.
So the one that went into the machine, which one came out to do the truck so that he could?
I think the forward time guy, the one that was in forward time.
Because he had to turn around.
Right, because you see him.
Well, that's the same Neil. He starts out on the time inverted side of the pincer.
He switches over.
Right.
And then once he sees that they are going to get encapsulated after that bomb goes off, he purposefully goes through the cylinder to come out on the forward time, the real time portion.
So he could complete that
truck.
loop of failing to stop them, because
Yes.
you hear the truck beep as they go into the tunnel.
Yes.
And as far as we know, he's the only character or only being that has 4
Well,
levels of existence.
we don't know. With the implication, once you find out that the protagonist created Tenet and has been like coordinating all of these events, you don't know. I mean, there's at that time period,
Because he had
story-wise,
to create the
different
that
loops.
Martin Donovan did at the beginning, where he says Tenet and interlaces his fingers. So he had to create that, and that's when he comes back to what's her face and says, "I found out that I wasn't working for you. I was working for myself, and so I gave her all this stuff." But so it's like, I guess there could be 4 of him because he did the time inversion.
It's important.
thing too.
It's important to note in all these loops that one of the rules that they never say about this time inversion is, when you're going backwards in time, you are experiencing it in real time as you did going forward.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So some of these loops that could be weeks, months, or years are happening in real time for them.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to go back in time a week, it's not just like most movies present where it's instantaneous. If you want to go back in time, you have to spend a week traveling in inverted time.
So as such, there's no real way of telling how much of the primary events of the movie take place over.
Right.
Because they
had to
Exactly.
keep her in the box
Oh yeah,
for
when
a week.
Yeah,
to
when Kat
heal.
gets shot, they have to reverse time for a week to get her.
Then had to
stable.
go back to the boat. Time on the boat.
Well, they went all the way back to the airport in Norway.
Went back
Yeah.
to the airport in Norway.
I did not realize this till I was reading the TV tropes page, but the movie itself happens in reverse.
Yeah.
Like I've said, the opera house scene and the final battle are happening at the exact same time. Oh, imagine being the editor of this movie, and I would.
Oh, I imagine it's like the Charlie Day wall full of who is Pepe Silva.
Yeah, him just looking crazy, smoking a cigarette. That would have been me. Like once I understood my task,
Yeah.
like once I read the script, one of the writers in my contract would be, you have to let me smoke in the editing bay. Because I would just be fucking sitting there, chain smoking, drinking coffee, like putting scenes together. Like, all right, just the continuity person on this film deserves an Oscar.
Yeah, I just imagine just the editor just like chain smoking, like eyes dark ringed like a raccoon, and then he looks over and sees Christopher Nolan's face in the window of the door. Like, oh no.
Well, imagine watching it with Nolan. Like, you think you've assembled this film right, and then Nolan watches it and he's like, well, actually, at this point right here, this should be right here. I would just throw up my hands and be like, fuck.
Just start just screaming. not even like, it's just like a continuous scream. Like, ah! I mean, continue.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. What a mind fuck of a movie this is. To be like,
And subtly so.
subtly so. Yes,
It's
like
not blatant. It's not like Kill Bill or where everything's visceral and everything's going 50,000 miles an hour.
The implications.
It's very subtle and very. It's
is.
laid back and it's very deliberate.
It's
for a lot
that it's
of it.
that British implication of just being more horrific than you can conceive of.
Yeah, I mean, there's the way to watch this movie and just accept it as it comes at you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's what we're doing, which is like trying to break it down and figure out everything. And I want to do both of them at the same time, which if I could just invert myself.
But that's what she was saying by don't try to understand it.
I
let
know
it
that.
happen.
He warned us
so it's
and we
like,
didn't
just
listen.
Know that
I know that.
you have to be dropping it to be able to catch it. You know, so
Why do we
instinct.
fall, Master Bruce?
It's called instinct, you know. It's like, and that's how
That's
he
funny.
learned how to fight with himself. You know, it's like, okay,
That's funny. I don't feel drunk.
I don't feel drunk.
That's a callback to Memento 6 months ago. You're welcome.
I also
motherfuckers.
think apparently the implication might be when you're moving back when entropy's reversed. I'm guessing you're de-aging appropriately as well.
No, I would think that you'd be aging at the same time
I don't know. See, I don't know.
because your body, the physical
But
processes of your
isn't
body.
the idea that you're kind of like on a
Well, yeah, but
Circle?
you can't breathe the reversed air. I mean, when you're reversed, you can't breathe normal air. You can't.
But your
everything-
lungs are still functioning. Yeah, your body
don't
processes
know.
are still functioning. They just can't accept the inverted air. So that makes me think that
That's why he's sick.
Yeah,
That's
but
why
it's-
Kenneth
it's-
Branagh's character is sick. I know he's
Well,
got
no, that's because he was cleaning up
Pancreatic.
material in a
from
in a segregated zone in Russia as a young person.
But
Yeah.
wouldn't have that been like instigated and
Pretty
more
sure-
exemplified by the continuous back and forth?
Well,
I don't know.
I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not going to do the math on Kenneth Branagh's age versus what's supposed to be happening in Stausk in the 80s. But it's always
Well, no, it would have been 90s. It was fall of the Soviet Union. That would be like 93, 92.
right. And he's presented as being very young in those brief scenes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking with Sator is the reason Sator is so much older than Kat is because he has been going
Okay.
back and forth so
honestly,
many times.
I can buy either explanation. I was
Because-
just curious about that.
If you accept the fact that at least a week, well, more 2 weeks, I don't know, several weeks pass over the course of the movie for Sator at the end of the movie, once he has the last piece of the algorithm, to go all the way back to the boat. That's double the amount of time that the story takes place over. So if you consider that he's been going back and forth like that this whole time, it could very easily be that he's actually, like, realistically only 30. You would think, like, looking at a birth certificate, oh, this man is 30 or 40 years
plus
old.
the Sator at
that
the
plus
end-
the cancer would age him prematurely.
So the
That's
Satyr
true,
at
too.
the end on the boat was the Satyr we had been following.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why he had the phone and why he knew Kat was supposed. Well, he didn't know Kat was going to kill him.
He
though.
didn't know.
No,
he
because he
because
thought
she changed up.
because he thought that he had killed her.
He thought he had killed her.
Because the inversion radiation is supposed to be lethal. So even just wounding her during that torture scene should have killed her had Neil and the protagonist not gone to such extremes to
Yes.
transport her back in time
Right.
through inversion.
And so when she showed, it's like, oh shit, you are the person later on.
Yeah, he
It's
spends
like,
that whole time thinking, since he went back, that she is
is the one that's
yeah.
there with him already. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that all makes sense, right? Fucking hell. Well, let's wrap it up by talking about the rest of the cast, because we spent a lot of time gushing over Sir Michael Caine and John David Washington. Fucking Robert Pattinson is great. in this
Pattinson's
movie.
He is
brilliant. He's
He's
great.
wonderful.
And I don't think there are still any naysayers out there who, about Robert Pattinson.
At this point, there shouldn't be. And honestly, he does a good job of almost stealing the movie.
He does, yeah.
He still. I mean, he has the the other three named person, David Gordon. I mean,
Joseph
Joseph
Gordon-Levitt.
Gordon-Levitt. He has that role basically.
Yeah.
But he out Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He out JGL's JGL in this sense. I think he's great, and I don't know if I had forgotten he was in the film, so it's like I don't know how much this connected and helped him get the Batman. because
I don't think
Nolan's?
it did, because there was a story online about one day, like, he had to miss filming for like an afternoon to go and do his Batman audition. And so the story goes, how much of this is Hollywood bullshit and how much of it actually happened, just media tabloid bullshit and how much of it actually happened. He told Christopher Nolan, hey, I have to be gone this afternoon. I'm going on an audition. And then when he came back, he didn't tell Nolan where he was going or what he was auditioning for. But when he came back, Nolan was like, so, hey, how'd your Batman audition go?
Because I guess he would know that there were Batman auditions happening.
Oh, yeah. Fucking Elizabeth Debicki is great.
That's Cat, right?
Cat, yeah.
She's
I think
wonderful.
one of my favorite. I think my favorite part of the movie is when they're in the shipping container and Neil is sleepily explaining to the protag how this is working.
Yeah. I love the fact that as far as her character is concerned, Kat is in a completely different movie than Neil and the protagonist. Yeah. She is in a revenge film, and they are in a time travel heist.
And they offer her an opportunity to complete her path,
And without even being a CIA agent or any kind of government military operative, she is as good as the two of them with zero training, because the whole time, like when her and Sator are on the boat and she is accidentally spilling sunscreen on the ground, you're like, what the fuck is she doing back there? It's so she can slide his big ass off the side of the boat.
Well, I was like, I didn't know that's exactly what was going to happen, because I saw her unhooking the wires that were keeping, that were the safety wires. But I was like, is she like spreading gasoline? Is she going to light him on fire?
I mean, that would have been one way to do it. And at that point, you couldn't have blamed her.
Oh, and you also said that this is one of the. You pointed out this is one of the funniest parts of the movie is when she kills him ahead of when they.
Yes, when they're talking, like after everything has happened, after they've buried the bomb and gotten away, and she gets on the comm.
And they're like, "You jumped the gun."
Yeah, they're saying you jumped the gun, you killed him. She's like, "It's because I knew that you guys would."
Wait.
You guys would do it, right? I knew that you guys would do it. You guys did it, right?
And what's his face was the driver in Inception, right?
Mahir?
Mahir?
I don't know that he was.
I don't know if he was.
Are you
that
thinking
might
about the doctor? Because he was the doctor / driver, the anesthesiologist / driver.
In Inception, right?
No, I don't know that's the same actor, but I know that's the character you're thinking of.
Oh, is it the same character?
No, it's not the same character. I'm saying I don't know if it's the same actor who played both.
That might just be you being racist against Indian actors.
That's not necessarily racist.
I wanted it to be because he was...
You want it to be racist?
I mean...
No.
Can't stop you, I suppose.
Or do I?
No, I'm looking at that actor.
It's too different.
Himesh Patel played Mahir, and I don't know who played
well, he was
character in Inception.
He was,
it's not the
in
same
his
person.
little that he gets to do. He's really fun, and in the same way that the actor in Inception is really good in the little stuff that he has, which is a little bit more. There was
a bit more to the guy in Inception because he
had to bring everybody out.
Since he had to be part of the dream heist, he had to have a bit more.
Yeah, he's
to him.
present in Inception. That character is present throughout the film. In Tenet, this character just shows up when needed.
But I think I like that with Christopher Nolan's like side characters. It's like they're capable people usually.
They have specialties, and this guy's Mahir's is transportation. The man knows how to fly a plane and crash it, and he knows how to drive a boat.
Who was the guy who played Mahir? Who did it say?
I just looked at it. Himesh something?
Yeah, okay. It's Yusuf in Inception was played by Dilip Rao.
Okay.
But anyway, the other folks in this cast. So there was never a point where JD was overpowering in the movie. He had so many great moments with other folks, whether it was a one scene thing with Michael Caine, Sir Michael Caine, I'm sorry, or throughout the film with Neil, with Robert Pattinson. And again, let's go back. Robert Pattinson is wonderful.
I told Chris earlier,
brilliant.
Everybody needs a friend like Neil.
Yes.
Yeah.
A friend who will travel through time to take a bullet for you.
Yep, take your hand on his throat, and with the gun at It's like, okay, I got to go through this. This is like the 50th fifth time I've done this, but sure, yeah, that's right. Yes, Neil and Robert Pattinson and Kenneth Branagh, if there is folks that steal the movie, it would be those two, but they both play their stuff perfectly with everybody else. It's great.
Now, I'm having trouble thinking of other actors. And now, obviously, we're excluding Heath Ledger as the Joker because that character is such a large ham anyway. But I'm trying to think of other Christopher Nolan characters who got to be as big and ridiculous and ham it up as much as Kenneth Branagh did. Because, like, that is the biggest performance I have seen out of an actor. The biggest out there, less subdued performance I've seen from an actor in any one of these films that we've watched. Can you guys think of anyone else who got to do that kind of crazy?
It's vague, but I would think there was something in The Prestige like that, because that lent itself to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Joe Pants in Memento.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't as loud.
It
maybe,
wasn't.
but-
I'm thinking like there haven't been as many complete monsters the way that Sator is.
Oh, sure. Leonardo is pretty big in Inception, because he has to go through
That's
so
true,
much
because
emotionally and stuff. To
His
get
trauma
to
is
his
the
wife,
thing that's fucking up the whole heist.
Yeah.
What's her face in? Oh my God, the French act.
Marion Cotillard.
Marion Cotillard in
Inception.
in Inception, but more so
The
in
Dark Knight
in
Rises?
Dark Knight Rises, she goes from really low key to really
to super villainous.
to super villainous
to
and
over the top
showy.
death.
And then there's also Bane. Bane gets to
Bane
to
and
tromp around a bit.
Ra's al Ghul.
And Begins not so much to me because I think Cillian Murphy still steals it as Scarecrow.
Oh, Scarecrow.
Yes.
gets
Okay. Yes. I think Cillian Murphy's the only person who got to have as much fun as Kenneth Branagh did, just hamming it up.
Again, with the exception of Heath Ledger. So
Yeah.
you would-
Yeah. Excluding Heath Ledger.
And I think they're able to get away with it because even though Nolan sticks to real, even if he's doing wild concepts, which he does in most of his movies, he still keeps them pretty down to earth. So to say that they were tearing it up is kind of, I think you have to not put an asterisk by it, but you have to kind of you have to qualify it a little bit.
Eric Roberts.
Eric Roberts gave a pretty subdued performance.
But when he's dropped,
well, yeah,
he loses
he
his
was
knees and ankles.
he was playing the role of a man who just got
But-
dropped from a balcony.
But his stuff
And his
was pretty
leg
big.
shattered.
Yeah.
And the scene when Joker comes into the gang meeting and
Oh, see, no, I don't think that's on the same level of crazy that
It's-
Kenneth Branagh got to play.
but Kenneth Branagh was crazy because he was a Russian gangster and they're just crazy,
Do not get us in trouble with the Russians, Stan. That is the last thing that I need.
He was a
You are
Russian
not. You
legitimate
just-
businessman.
Yes, Stan, just because you wear tracksuits.
I like how, I know there wasn't a lot
That's
of
Armenian.
there wasn't a lot of interference from governments over this, but I also
There
like.
should have been.
I think maybe a few more noses should have been poked in, but that would have just muddled everything.
Yeah.
But I think they had a good way of closing off the final battle because they offhandedly mentioned that. What was the character's name? The Russian guy's name again?
Sator?
Sator. His company, ever since his company got big and was handling that, his company basically controlled that entire area of
Yes.
Stalls 12.
Yeah.
So that they were the only presence there. So of course no one's gonna be out there other than them.
Because they did talk about how it had been just completely deserted and everybody had left that were fighting the Cold War of that time. It was no longer there, and then all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and it's created a kingdom in that place.
Thanks to future interference.
Thanks to future
Right.
interference.
Well, guys, I think that's going to close out our Christopher Nolan discussion and our year of contrasting directors. What a journey this has been, from Clerks to Tenet. And I'm very excited.
If you think about it, Kevin Smith is sort of an inversion, parallel inversion
Just-
of Christopher
no.
Nolan because
No.
you got the funny adventures and you got the not so funny.
Which was which?
Okay, but can we in a future episode conceptualize Christopher Nolan movies with Kevin Smith characters and vice versa?
Yeah,
like Dante and Randall in Tenet, and Clerks with the protagonist in Neil.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Chris would love that.
It's shot like a Nolan movie for Clerks.
Yes, and Clerks.
But it's got the cheap Clerk style for Tenet.
Yes.
Okay, so which movie is flipped with Mallrats?
That would be
Inception.
Prestige, right?
No, I'm going with Inception.
Okay, yeah,
Really?
I can see that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want Brody running around inside?
Yes, I want Brody making people's dreams and being chased by his murderous ex, Shannon Doherty.
Everyone keeps.
Or wouldn't Shannon Doherty be the one he's trying to get to?
Well, I want Silent Bob playing the role of Yusuf. I want Jay being JGL's character.
You want Kevin Smith mugging for the camera, trying to wake people up.
Yes, exactly. That's what I want. All right, so to set us up for next year's 4 perfect films for each of us, I'm shuffling some pieces of paper that I've written numbers on. So one at a time, let's start with Stan. Take your headphones off, come over here and pick a number, and we're going to see what order we're going in.
If I had a nickel for every time that was asked of me.
I would really prefer that not to be a thing that happens. All right, so I'm holding out one of these cards face down.
Stan is approaching the table.
Yes, let's keep this real dramatic for the audience. Pick which number you want.
Choosing his paper.
All right, Stan, which number have you got?
He's number
Oh,
one.
Stan's number 1. All right, so that means, Stan, you're picking the first 4 films that we discuss next year. So go ahead and go back to your seat and put your headphones back on.
And think about what you've done.
Yep, and I'm going to vamp here to keep things from getting boring while Chris takes his headphones off and comes to get a number. So, Chris, come on up, pick a number. Which one do you want? It's not that hard. Just pick a number.
Chris picked 5.
I'm 2.
All right, Chris is number 2, so you're going to pick the next 4 films we discuss next year, and that leaves me with number 3. So we're going to close.
Well, see, since you told me about this idea, I've already picked my 4 movies, so this actually gets interesting because it lines up with an idea I had if I didn't get the last third of the year.
So, listeners, I talked about it in our last episode, that I think when we talked about Interstellar, but the idea for next year, we're breaking away from director-specific discussions next year, and each of us are going to pick 4 films that we consider perfect 10s. So, Stan, you'll have January, February, March, and April. Every month, we'll watch and discuss a film that you pick that you think is a perfect 10, which leaves Chris with May, June, July, and August, and I'll take September, October, November, and December. And that's what we're going to do next year. And time permitting, we're going to try to keep doing off-topic episodes. Now that we're up to 4 podcasts on this network, that's become a little more difficult. But I do like doing off-topic episodes, and that is why, time permitting, at the end of the month,
These 2 are.
in 2 weeks. No, you're in on this, motherfucker. We're going to be talking about a very special Christmas film. We in previous years we've talked about Olive, the Other Reindeer. We talked about Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. We're breaking away from the reindeer tradition.
But isn't it the long-haired?
So we're going to be talking about Nestor the Long-Haired Donkey.
Oh, no.
The long-eared Christmas donkey.
Long-Eared Christmas Donkey, thank you.
Because as is relayed in the special, Nestor is the donkey present at Christ's birth in the manger.
Oh, I love this already, and I know that I'm going to hate it.
Which means we get to have a discussion about theology and Rankin Bass specials because it's weird.
I'm going to let you spearhead that one. I don't want to talk about theology and Rankin Bass specials.
The theology of Rankin Bass, because they have their own weird weird theology of how things work in the world, but then they're also going to bring Christ into it. Now it gets even weirder.
Yeah. All right, so you've got that to look forward to in 2 weeks' time, Nestor the Long-Eared Christmas Donkey. Stan, if people would like to follow you online, where can they do that at? I think we all already know the answer to this.
Instagram.
Okay, and what's your handle on Instagram, Stan?
Just think of me.
That sounds like a threat.
All right, so you can follow Stan on @JustThinkOfMe. Chris, if people want to follow you online, where can they do that at?
I don't know if they should, but I'm trying not to. But he's right there. I'm at Chris the OK on Twitter. It's OKAY, and you're welcome to come talk to me about Rankin Bass and your feelings on
theology.
Jesus. Yeah.
And wrestling. All right, and if you
No,
want
that's stupid.
If you want to follow me online, the best place to do that is on Instagram @DBHensley. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us, or you can search for Long Walk Productions and Long Walk Podcasts on Facebook. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thanks to Shelby Ray Patterson, I'm going to be including the links for our other social media handles in the show notes. So thank you for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you are listening on.
Peace out.
I think Clerks 2 would swap with Interstellar just so at some point Jay can pass by and they can go, homeboy fucked a Martian once.